1 a.m. and I hear my beeper going off. Yes, it was that long ago. I'm 29 and I'm newly promoted to director of a psychiatric halfway house for residents aged 16 to 22, unlocked. I had started there about 8 months before as the house manager, assistant director, and when the director announced that she was stepping down, I was bumped up to director. Yikes! Was I ready for that? I wasn't sure I was prepared for that level of responsibility. It seemed like just the week before I was hitchhiking up the coast of California and staying with friends and looking for a job. I rushed to call the house and learned that Junie, one of the residents, is running around in circles around the outside of the house. I suspect pretty likely that something's up with her medication and she's having a manic episode. I instruct them to call the police. She's hospitalized and we are all relieved that she is safe and that her medications will be reevaluated. So I'm now the bottom line for this residence for both clinical and administrative aspects, and I find it both daunting and rewarding. It gets easier over time as I gain an experience and confidence. All the residents have been hospitalized at least once, and then it becomes clear that they can't return home to their families, if there even was one. So that means that they're coming to our residence for an average of around 18 months, which means that we really get to know these kids. So there's Joe, who is the kindest, gentlest young man, whose schizophrenia means that he feels that everything he does has to be sanctioned by the Catholic Church. When this means tying doorknobs together with string or smashing coffee mugs in the woods, we know it's gone too far. He needs a hospital. There's Benny, who is for sure the smartest one of any of us there, and he uses his intellect to find loopholes in the rules, which means that we get better all the time at describing and defining them. There's Charlie, who is very concerned when it's windy outside, and at 19 years old, he is somehow obsessed with hair loss, and he speaks incessantly about Rogaine. Then there's Annette, who is like, she just wants to find guys. Guys are her thing, sometimes with challenging results, always with drama. One of the other residents describes her as snippy, snappy, and snide, which the staff love this description, and they use it, but never out loud. Then there's Jerry, who decides that he has taken up an interest in healthy eating and running. And he grew up in a family that didn't have enough of anything: love, clothing, support, let alone any kind of interest in sports. And then there's Frida, multi-tattooed, hair changes color every other week, bold, pressing the limits all the time, particularly with curfews, and she declares herself lesbian or bisexual. So the rules and expectations of the house are clear, as are the consequences. And the residents need to sometimes bump up against those to make sure that it's all intact and that they are safe. The staff, as a unit, provides predictable, reliable, consistent feedback so that the residents are able to see their actions and start to take responsibility for their behavior. The residents rotate through meal planning, shopping, cooking, and cleaning. And the staff meets every Friday for 4 hours, discussing each of the residents one at a time, and sometimes the policies and rules and anything else that is needed. And when the residents return home from either psychiatric daycare programs or school or occasionally work, the leadership team of 3 meets with them individually, and we talk about their week and any privileges or any consequences that might not have been dealt with yet. And the staff also gets together outside of work because staff needs a chance to blow off steam and connect with each other. We don't see each other all together very often. And that really is effective in creating a team which can rely on each other in sometimes very difficult situations like the one I had mentioned before. And the goodbye ritual is as important as any other ritual at the house, and it means that every member of the community says a few words to the person who's leaving, which is incredibly touching. And if it is you that they are talking to, it can be overwhelming, but really just incredibly moving and stirring. And with all the documentation and the meetings and the theories and the time with the residents, you never really know how much impact you have on someone. And it was a week after I left, having been there for 3 years, I learned that one of the quietest, most unassuming residents had got himself on a plane to Hawaii. Hawaii! I was gobsmacked. And it takes a lot of coordination and organization to set that up, let alone to follow through with it all. And he had never gotten so much as to the next town over without assistance from staff. His actions spoke volumes, not words, but he clearly was responding to the change in leadership, the uncertainty, the unpredictability, also trying out some of his independence or time for adventure. Not that he knew what he was going to do when he got to Hawaii, but it still blew me away that it happened. But the biggest surprise came just a few years ago when I received a message on my website asking if I was the person who had run this residence over 30 years prior. And I recognized Frida's name right away and wondered if it was the same staff challenging, intimidating, funny, smart young girl from way back when. I was nervous about responding to her, but I let her know that yes, indeed, she had found me. She asked if we could speak, and we set up a time for the following week. So what would this be like? What was she wanting? Was she angry at me or angry at the staff or the house or something that had happened? I realized I could imagine her at 18, but she had to be over 50 now. And what was appropriate? What would I say? We had very clear boundaries when residents left about what kind of communication they could have with staff, and we would periodically set up parties for old residents to return to see each other and connect with staff. But this was unprecedented from decades prior. It turns out that she was in a relationship, she had kids of her own, and the reason she wanted to be in touch with me was to apologize for her behavior when she was a resident. Oh, it blew me away. And we all really liked her plucky, independent push for agency self. And I could not fathom anything that she could have done that would require an apology. It was all those pushing of boundaries. That's all in a day's work at the residence. And I made sure to tell her that. And I can only hope that with the courage and perseverance that she showed in finding me and in actually making that call, that it helped to close the loop that had been open for her for 30 some odd years. And the gift that she gave me was proof positive that not only did we make an impact back then, but that she was paying forward and creating positive ripples in her own life and now in mine.
When I was 17, I fell in love, my first love. Many years later,